back, everyone, to the Digital Product Mama podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Bowden, and I have Brittany Ratelle here with us today, who is going to talk about how to get us legally legit, which I love that. I can't wait to ask her all the questions and get all the info. So welcome, Brittany. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Lindsay, for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah. I am an attorney and have been so for more than a decade now. But my kind of specialty is serving the online business space. And so I have a lot of clients who are creatives, entrepreneurs, small business owners, e-commerce, also digital product owners, authors, coaches, whatnot. And it's a really cool niche to be in. Most of them are women. And I love being able to support women, especially women who may be parents, who are growing their dreams alongside motherhood, alongside parenthood, and really looking for support and kind of that infrastructure to support them as they want to grow and maybe start to hire team members or add additional revenue streams or start to get into the exciting world of licensing and brand building, and other things that might be opportunities for them as they really hit their stride. And so it's a really cool spot to be in. I feel very blessed. I live in the Pacific Northwest here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, with my family. I've got 4 kids, and my husband and I work from home. And it's just been an incredible gift and blessing to be able to work for myself, and that the internet has allowed me to connect with really talented women entrepreneurs all over the country.
Isn't it so nice to just like have your own schedule and work from home and be able to be?
It's a dream, as we're wrapping up summer, and it's been an amazing summer. I've been able to spend so much time with my family. We got a new boat with my folks, and we've spent so much time on that boat, and it's our new shiny toy. And
Yeah.
it's really as I've counseled my daughters who are still young, they're 13 and 11, but it's really great to have, I said, to get some skills so that your time is worth something, if and when it's a good season for your family, how you want to work, what you want to do for your work. And so yeah, I feel incredibly blessed that I just found this niche. This wasn't, when I go to finish law school, this was not listed in the career service menu. It was like admiralty law and bankruptcy law. And I did some other practice areas for a few years, especially as I was having babies and doing like nap time lawyering. But I really found that there was this group of mostly women who were kind of being overlooked, especially as influencer marketing was taking off, as digital products and passive income was starting to grow, and they were not being seen. And so they were not being served by traditional law firms. And I thought, they're missing out, because I could see these are really hardworking, bright people who are understanding that the economy is changing. And I think I want to help right here. So.
I love that. Okay, so you help creators get legally legit. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. I kind of help for the full business life cycle. I help everyone from getting started in terms of what that might mean. And normally I kind of break that into a couple different areas. So foundation legit, which is like, okay, maybe it's time for you to set up your LLC to kind of get your business numbers and your bank account practices and everything set up right. Keep your money separate from your personal money. That's kind of a biggie that both accountants and lawyers really tend to fuss about for very good reason. Getting your website protected and whatnot, and making sure you've got the right docs that you need to have your website compliant. And then I usually move into helping people getting people legit. And I say that meaning all the stuff that you're doing with people, all the business relationships you have with your customers, your clients, depending on if you sell products or services, or your team members, all of those need to be really covered by a written contract. And so the main way I serve people there is I have a contract shop that's called Creative Contracts, where I sell DIY templates, because a lot of people really don't need something custom drafted. And I do that, of course, for my clients and people who need that. But a lot of people just need good, solid, like I, want to hire my first freelancer and someone to help me with graphic design, or I need an editor, or I'm going to hire a videographer for a course. What am I supposed to use? I've got what you need to hand to that person, right? And then kind of the last piece is helping with intellectual property. And I call that getting brand legit. And this is where, as people look forward and kind of, get their eye out of the trenches and look to what do they eventually want to do with their brand? How do they want to grow, especially online and other opportunities? That's where we're protecting things in our IP portfolio. So copyright and trademark, you're looking towards licensing agreements, working with other people, and how do we protect and make sure we are building on ground that we own and not just squatting our brand on something else that can be ripped out from underneath us. So.
Oh, yeah. All so good. And I use all of Brittany's contracts for my business. They are awesome. I think I have an affiliate code, so with a discount. So I'll put that in the show
Yes.
notes for sure. Love
Yeah.
that. So her contracts are so easy to use. She has a video to walk you through. It makes it very easy with something that can be a little complicated. So I love
Yeah,
that.
that could seem overwhelming at first, which I
Oh,
totally understand, and I get, a lot of people sometimes who have some shame about that, or like, you're going to be mad at me, Brittany, or I didn't know about this, or, oh, my contract's a mess. And I'm like, look, I don't get mad at people. I'm disappointed in my kids who already ate all the pirate booty that we bought at Costco last week. Right. But I understand that your gift and your probably super talent in business is likely not the legal side. That's totally reasonable and acceptable. So, bring your gifts, your talents, what's working, what you're selling, and then let me help make up some of the stuff that you haven't gotten training and practice in, and I thank you, Liz, for I appreciate that because I try to make it as easy as possible. That's really a brand goal of mine is that legal can be approachable. It can be bite size. I don't try to make things more complicated, right, than they need to be to justify high prices. I think that's unethical. So I really want to help people because I believe in boundaries and business really help us maintain relationships. Especially I find with a lot of women who are very heart-centered and care about their clients, their customers, and their people they work with. If you care about that too, then please don't wait too long on contracts because they can help you preserve those relationships and set up clear expectations.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people that I talk to, the legal side scares them, and so it prevents them from moving forward.
Right?
They're scared about copyright or trademarks or, contracts with team members, and they don't know where to go. So having someone like you with resources to help them with those things that, like you said, they're not trained in is
Mhm.
so just awesome. So thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
And we definitely don't want people to be held back, right? And be like, oh, everyone's out to get you, which honestly, that's probably not realistic, right? That's probably one end of the extreme. And then
Right.
the other one, I see is a little bit too much. It's like base jumping without a parachute, right? Which is like nothing could go wrong. I don't need contracts. We're friends. We don't need anything. And, I've collected enough horror stories to know that's not also the case, right? And then it's your job to look out for your back, not anyone else's. There's a happy ground in the middle where you use legal and use it as a tool. And then you understand there's always some risk in business. And that's just part of the deal, riding those highs and lows. But hopefully you don't have to pay and learn all those lessons in the hardest way possible.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about we have some listeners who are beginners and they're just starting. And I know you talked about kind of what you need to do in the beginning, an LLC, website. So can you speak more to that? I know people are
Yeah.
going to ask, when do I set up an LLC? How do I know that's right for me? What kind of things do I need on my website if I'm a beginner?
Right. Such always really great questions and common questions that I get a lot. So here's the thing with LLCs is that for pound of how much they cost, they are a really great investment. Most states, the cost is under $100. And that I would say the only asterisk to that is California. California, they're a little more expensive because you have to pay this franchise tax that's like $800 whether your LLC makes money or not. So if you're from California, I'm sorry, it's a sunshine tax for living in a beautiful state with a government that's not friendly to small business. So when people are considering whether it's time, here's the thing. If you don't set up an LLC, you are a sole proprietorship. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that is the default status. So if you do nothing and you start making money selling anything from cupcakes to cookie tutorials or whatever, or a math download, you are a sole proprietorship. That's how your state sees you. That's how the IRS sees you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not illegal, but there is no legal protection. There's no asset protection. It means all of your business money is mixed together with your personal money. It's all on the table. It's all in one bucket. So if something were to happen, right, which again, these risks are low, but they're never zero. Okay. And depending on what you sell and how you sell it and how big your business gets, and now who you might be bringing into your business as team members, your risk goes up because we just have more complicated stuff going on. If that, risk comes, and I think of it as the slide that I use when I'm teaching this is you're like on the big Titanic ship and here comes your iceberg. And this is your litigation or judgment. This is the fire you weren't expecting. This is someone slipping and falling at an event you're hosting. This is someone suing you because they say you have trademark infringement and you're using their brand and you've been doing it for years and they want to come after your profits. If they should get a judgment, meaning they win in a lawsuit, they get everything that's on your table, right? If you have an LLC, it's like that little engine room with watertight doors. The doors go down And that iceberg might scrape and get to that room, but because you have protection, everything else on the ship is safe. So that means that there's a line and a boundary between your personal money and your business money. And that's a really great peace of mind, and should be for entrepreneurs, of like, that sucks. That sucks to get sued. Really sucks to lose a lawsuit. But you know what? My house is okay. What I own with my spouse, my 401k, my savings, my personal bank account, it's not on the menu. It's not even listed. They can't get to it. And so that's why LLCs are so important, and that's why they're their number one vehicle, right, of entrepreneurs using it. So I do like people to set them up sooner rather than later, right? There's no milestone to me of like, oh, for sure, once you're making this amount of money, but to consider that once you make over $600, the IRS thinks that you're a business, right? And that it expects to see you file and have a return and to see your expenses. And that the longer you wait on setting up an LLC, the more pain it is to have to go back, because there is a proper order to do things, right? Generally, I recommend that people, if you're going to set up an LLC in your state, and I have lots of resources online about this. So if you hear this and you're like, wait, Britt's going too fast, head over to BrittanyRatelle.com. I've got blog posts and other things to help you in the right order. But I like setting up a virtual mailbox and commercial registered agent because you can maintain your privacy. So you do that first, then you take those credentials, set up your LLC with your state. Every state has their own portal online, except for Maine. Maine, you still have to mail in. Don't ask me why. I don't know what the lobster they're doing up there in Maine, if they haven't gotten on this train yet. You'll get those docs and they'll have registration when it goes through, and they do their magic and they've made sure that no one else has that same name. Then you set up your EIN. That's your tax ID number, or kind of like your business social security number. You take those two documents to the bank and go set up a business bank account, meaning a bank account in the name of your LLC that matches it. Everything's really clear, really looks really professional, really matchy. That's what we want. And then you set up your payment processing under those same credentials. And now you have set up a house, a strong house, where business money comes into a bank account, business money leaves that bank account to pay people. That's where your credit card is hooked back to. You have a strong boundary in between, so we don't have commingling, which we don't want. And now we're doing business for real. And I tell you what, there is a palpable swagger and difference that comes when people set up their LLC that I've seen too often be like overlooked, right? To just be like, oh, well, that's silly. It's just some letters. How can that change the way you show up in your business? But I'm telling you, Linz, it does. And I've seen people who are like, I'm running a real business now. I'm running it. I'm looking at my numbers. I'm going to charge what I should be charging. I'm going to set time. I'm going to talk to my partner about what I need and for us as a family to do so I can move forward with this business. You know, just the whole energy of the enterprise changes when you're able to just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm a business owner.
It's a really good point that I've never thought about, but yeah, it really does kind of take you from that, oh, this is my little side thing, to like, no, this is my legit business and I'm going to take it seriously. So
yeah. And I'm because I take myself seriously, you know, not too seriously, right? Because we all like to have fun, but like enough that it's okay for this to start impacting my life, because anything worth doing is going to, right? And that's okay to declare that and to say that with confidence. So
right. Okay, I just wanted to quickly go over those steps again, because that was like gold, what you just shared. So getting a like business address, you can do that at I use the post office. You can have
you
like
can use the post office. The one reason I would caveat I'd say about the post office, even though it's the cheapest, is that some things they won't let you use a PO box because they say they want a street address. And so in my experience, if you get it's called a virtual mailbox, and they're a little bit more expensive. They're like $10 a month. They're more versatile and flexible because they don't scream PO box. They don't have it because it actually looks like a street address, and they will scan and email your mail to you. You don't actually have to go in, and then you decide you want to scan the rest of it, or is it junk mail and shred it, or do you want me to forward it to you, depending on how far away it is. So I like virtual mailboxes for that reason. And then commercial registered agent, which this is a service that you've seen in movies, right? When someone gets sued and they're like, are you so-and-so? And they're being served and they have to sign. That's what this company does for you. But you have to have one of these if you don't want to put your home address, because you have to have a business that's available, a street address that's available during business hours from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So unless you have a warehouse or an office that you go to that meets that criteria, you'd have to use your home address. Then it becomes publicly listable. People can dox you and people can find your home address online. I don't love that. My clients don't love that. So that's why we do this little twofer to maintain your privacy, but you're still compliant. So yeah.
right. Yeah. And Some post offices will actually let you have street addressing. So the one that I use does, but then others won't. So you have to
Yeah.
call or look online
You
to
have to
see if
call and
that's
look
an
at your office,
option.
right? Yeah.
I don't know
And
why
I
they don't
have had
all,
a
but
couple states, people who've even done the virtual mailbox. So I just want to prepare people,
yeah,
and it still got sent back of like, oh, it's on their list of a PMB, which stands for personal mailbox, meaning they still
I
know because
know.
it's on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
database. If that happens and you're like, crap, I really don't want to use my house, you kind of have to go the next step and probably get like a virtual like office somewhere, where you pay, and these are going to be a little bit more expensive. Sometimes they come with like co-working space, but it'll usually be like a real place.
Right. Where people can
And
accept
that
mail for
serve
you
and set them up. Yeah. So
yeah. Okay. And so then after that, you would apply for your LLC either
mhm.
online.
You do it online. Yeah. And again, you can do this and pay services, right? And not to cast shade, but like a little shade, help you manage shade. But a lot of those, you're overpaying and you're getting upsold stuff you don't need, like a special fancy binder, and they're charging you more for a registered agent and the mailbox and to get your EIN, which is free. And so I don't, and also like you don't know how to do that yourself. Now they own the keys, right? It's kind of in a black box, which I don't love because that way they're going to charge you every year to renew, and they're going to charge you to change your address, and you don't know how to do that stuff yourself, which
It's
I like
simple to do
empowering people.
online. I feel like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
simple for Georgia at least.
Yeah, the LLC is not hard. They're just, it's just a government website, and every state's slightly different, but generally you just go in, you answer their questions. You're going to check a bunch of boxes that like, no, I'm not a sexually explicit business. No, I'm not transporting fuel across state lines, like a
Right.
bunch of really weird questions of industries that you're not part of.
Right.
And then the big thing is they want to make sure that your name of your business is available, meaning it is not the same name or similar to someone else in the state. So before you pick your name, make sure you've looked in your state database. That should be public for you to search, and make sure that the name is clear. This is also a good idea, and I cover this in my course that tells you everything about setting up your business called Lawfully Ever After. And I teach you how to do like your own kind of DIY trademark and brand search, because a lot of people get disappointed if they wait here and they go to the end of the process, and they're like, oh, I already set up my LLC name, and then they're like, oh shoot, that's a name I can't use, right? So yeah.
Okay, so then you grab your EIN number.
Mhm.
That's you can do that at the IRS
At the
website.
IRS website, yeah, which does have hours. It's super weird, I know. So make sure you do it. So like not before like 10 p.m. Pacific or something. I don't know why that website has hours, but thank you, U.S. government.
Mhm.
And then yeah, make sure you save that in a really, really safe place. That's a really important
Like your
practice
social
pointer.
security number for your business, right?
Yes, and they're very difficult to look up. There's no public register, like you can't easily sign up. You have to like get someone on the phone to look it up for you or file a form, and it's going to take forever. So as soon as it gives it on the screen and it's like, congratulations, you have an EIN, I screenshot that, and now it's saved. And then I download the letter and I print it off. I put it in a couple different places to make sure I never lose that number. So
Good tip.
yeah.
And then the final step would be opening a business bank account
Mhm.
is your LLC name and your EIN number.
And
So
your
it's like,
EIN. Those are the two documents that your bank will need. And yeah, again, you can go into your local bank or credit union. There's online ones that are options now. People ask me all the time, which one? I'm not really precious to anything. There's pros and cons, but make sure it's something that you can usually access online, that's got a reasonable online portal. And then ideally, I say set up at least like two bank accounts when you're going in under your business, because I like doing kind of a little bit of a profit first system, which is have a main account and then one for your savings and like for taxes. He recommends a lot more accounts, which so for some people it's great. Some people, they think it's overkill to move that much money, but it is a good idea to have one that's for savings, because taxes should not be a surprise to you that you need to pay either quarterly taxes every quarter, or depending on if you're running payroll and you're an S corp, once a year. But make sure you're saving at least 20% of the money you're making so that you're ready to pay those bills. So
and having a good CPA is good. I
really
mean,
important.
in the beginning, maybe not, but as your business grows, I would be lost without our CPA because it's just a lot of stuff that I don't know about and I'm not an expert in. So I want it to be
Exactly. And
correct.
experts, just to hire experts and let them shine, and in their level, in their place of genius, and you shine in yours. So
Exactly. Okay, so that was super helpful with, kind of the basics, foundations of getting your business set up. Um, Quickly, can you touch on what legal things you need for your website?
yeah. So every website needs a privacy policy by law. There's like 11 state laws now that require them in the US. We're probably going to have a federal one someday, but in the meantime, please, 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 you have to have a privacy policy on your website that states what you collect, what information, and believe me, you're collecting information. You are because of various things you're doing on your site, especially if you have an email list and a sign up, which you should. And then you also need to have website terms and conditions. These are not required by law, but they're a really good idea. They explain what is on your site, how you sell it, the rules. If people do bad stuff on their site, can you kick them off? If you're having programs attached to your site or selling from your website, what are your refund terms? What are your shipping terms? Yeah, and that's where you can also add in additional language about like a digital product and licensing, or like an online course and like community guidelines or whatnot. And then you should definitely have a copyright statement saying, hey, everything on the website belongs to me, all rights reserved. If you want to use any of this stuff, you're gonna have to contact me, kind of a blanket covering. And then there's also some information depending on if you use, affiliate links, you need to have disclaimers about that. If you have health and wellness information on your website, you need to have some information about what that is and what it's not, and that you're not offering this as healthcare advice or whatnot. So I sell everything that you need in my website bundle. It's my number one product because literally everyone needs it if you have a website. So if you have some stuff on your website, if you're not sure who wrote it or where it came from, if it fell off the truck, off the back of a truck off the internet, which sometimes happens, might be time to take a look at that. And, like Lindsay says, watch the video, download it, follow the paint by number color code that I do, and then you're set. And then I did also have additional ones that are specific for digital product owners. And so, and how those work together is the website bundle kind of goes in your footer, and it's just kind of blanket coverage for your website. And then the digital product terms are what you should link to on checkout, and you've done this, right? Where you check something out and you check that box. It should be an affirmative opt-in that says, hey, I agree to these purchase terms. I agree to these terms and conditions, some language like that. You want something there that protects you and that covers, hey, this is a product, you are licensing it. You are not allowed to resell this. You aren't allowed to make it publicly available. And that covers that. And so that's what those terms there protect you. And they include even a kind of a one-page image, because I know some marketplace websites like TBT, for example, don't allow you to link to your own terms on checkout, which is unfortunate. I hope that changes someday, that functionality. But in the meantime, you want to make those terms available before purchase so that they can be binding on your customers.
Right. And that's a really good segue, because I wanted to talk about Teachers Pay Teachers next, because we have a lot of teachers that listen to the podcast. And one thing that I've done to kind of bypass, TPT not allowing us to link to our own, most teacher sellers have, one-page document like you were talking about. And then I just have my complete terms of use in Google Drive, and I just link to the Google Drive in that PDF, and that is allowed. So,
yeah.
And a lot of TPTers are not doing that. They just have the one page kind of, you can do this, you can't do this.
Right.
But do you think that's really legit? Would that hold up? if
I don't know. We haven't really seen this be tested in court yet, but what would be difficult, and what I think the other side, as I imagine, my lawyer brain goes, well, what is the other side going to say? The other side likely is going to say, was there an opportunity for the customer to see and agree to these terms before purchase? And that is really because a binding contract means someone had to have seen it, and what we call a meeting of the minds. And so it means if you only include those terms in the PDF, like, the zip file that someone gets and shows up on their computer, if that's the first time they've seen that, I think that would have a hard time being enforceable, because they didn't have a chance to agree to those before they swiped their card and gave you money. And so, if anyone from TPT is listening, please call me and let's work on, how we can get this functionality added in, because it's really important for people as you're running your own mini businesses and mini stores on a marketplace to have a protection like that. But I think knowing the options that we have now, those are our best options, right? Is what can you do to make sure that people understand, and don't hide the ball here, right? Make it really big, bold language. These are my binding terms and conditions. Please read before purchase. Okay. Because you're not trying to hide anything. You don't want gotcha here. You just want people to understand what you're getting and what you can and can't do with these digital goods.
That's really good. Yes. TBT, please.
Please, let's go. Let's work on this stuff. I know you get a lot of legal stuff, because you get everyone and their mom, confusing copyright and trademark all the time. I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of queries a day, but yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that then. Copyright and trademark.
Yeah.
Quick overview. I've talked about that on the show before, because I get that question all the time.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Here's your quick primer. Copyright protects the creative work. So copyright protects books, ebooks, worksheets, handouts, audio files, video course files, PDFs, anything. It can protect, some graphic design or compilation of things, but it needs to be lots of elements together, right? And so like if you have maybe a worksheet of math problems and it's, 30 problems in a certain order and that's it, probably not protectable by copyright because that's considered too functional. And it's a list of numbers, right, which are not protected. But if you add doodles to the side, if you have original language or explanation at the top, then maybe I think that maybe enters the realm of copyright. So that's what's hard in curriculum designing, I know, is because curriculum is obviously designed to be functional and to be teaching people. So the elements of it that are creative, that are not related to the actual function, those are what's going to be eligible for copyright. And especially when you have multiple worksheets or handouts all together, now that does become a work, a compendium of, a book of curriculum that you can protect. Trademark, on the other hand, protects branding. So think overall name of your company, logo, product name, collection name, slogan. You can even go into, there's trade dress, and that's how we can protect certain colors and even smells and sounds. Those are a lot harder to get and more rare. Those are unicorns in my practice, but most of the time we protect kind of that first list of things in kind of that order, right? And trademarks give you the exclusive use of that mark as a source indicator, meaning, hey, world, I'm the person who makes this thing, and that's why it's a trademark, okay? And that's what we expect from a trademark, and we expect to see a trademark be used consistently, look the same every single time, and that's how we know who made this thing. And so we say it's unfair for someone else to use that in a way that would be that would be confusing, right? And that someone would think, oh, yeah, you can tell 1 week left of summer. Yeah. In a way of people, right? And that's why. And copyrights are really quite cheap. You can get them on your own. They're $55 a piece. You can do a bigger registration as long as you sell something together. So if you have, hey, Kinder Math Bundle, and you've got all kinds of resources, a whole curriculum, then register the copyright to that entire bundle, because you sell it together, you can register it together. And you can do it on your own. Again, I also now have a new resource in my shop called the DIY Copy Registration Kit that leads you through screen by screen, and I show you exactly how to register your own materials so that you can rinse and repeat that again and again. And the reason why we want to register our copyright, even though you're like, Britt, don't I already own the rights to your stuff? You do. But if you have to protect and enforce those rights, you have very few options, because you can't collect statutory damages or attorney's fees, which is legalese, meaning it's too expensive for you to bring a lawsuit for you to enforce your rights. That changes once you have a copyright registration, because it also changes because you can get a quicker DMCA takedown. You can go to TPT, or you can go to Amazon or Etsy and be like, hey, that's my stuff. Here's my certificate. You fill out the online form. They take it down within hours. They're like, I'm not messing around with that, right? And so you get, you kind of get like the express, like the VIP line for protecting your stuff. So trademarks are a lot bigger of an investment. I prepare my clients to pay about $3,000 to invest in a trademark, and it takes anywhere upwards of 15 to 16 months till we get our fancy certificate back. That's what they look like.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can use the TM symbol. That means I'm asserting my common law trademark privileges next to your brand name. You actually don't have to file anything to use the TM. It looks legit. A lot of people don't know the difference, right? And so use that if you're starting to be like, this is my brand name, right? And then save your pennies and start planning on getting your trademark, especially if this brand name is something you love, something that's resonating with your audience, something that's starting to get traction. If you want to license, if you want to do e-commerce, if you want to do co-branded things, if you plan on landing and expanding, then trademark has to be part of that journey. And you need to make sure that you can own that brand and that you're not squatting on someone else's territory, right?
Okay, I like that. I have one follow-up question about the copyright, because the general consensus in the TPT world is you don't necessarily have to register your copyright unless you see someone infringing on your work, trying to steal your work. What do you think about that?
I would say I could see why people would feel that, but here's the thing, is that actually to collect statutory damages, which statutory damages mean all you have to prove is I created a thing, someone stole my thing. That's it. Very easy, cut and dry. those can be $150,000 per work, statutory infringement. So that is serious money. And because it's serious money, it means you can get a serious lawyer who will take this case on contingency and will help you get this. Now, you probably wouldn't do that against another small time operator, but say there was a Chinese company overseas that was ripping off your stuff or something, and you're like, this is worth it. And to collect that, you have to show that you had a registration before there was infringement. And so the timing has to be changed. And so, and you do get 3 months from the date of publication, meaning like it was available online for sale. It needs to be within that time period. So I would push back on that a little bit. And I would say if you have something, especially if it's starting to pop off and be a popular, I'm not saying that, hey, every single work and that you do, you need to register the copyright, because I understand that could be too expensive, right? And you might have to kind of look at, well, what's the most important, what's got the most of my stuff. Again, look to see what's being sold together, because then you can register it together, and that can decrease your costs and your investment in that.
Like a curriculum, right? With like a whole
Yeah, if it's a
curriculum.
curriculum is sold together, it can be registered together. For example, like when I make it standard practice that I recommend to my online course creators, hey, let's do your whole course. There's
Okay.
no reason why, and that's one registration. That includes all of the goodies that's in the course, the videos, the audio, the PDFs, all of it. One registration, you know? And that way, if someone rips off even some of it, we have options, right? It changes it from being like, I have a little stick of knock it off, take that down, don't
Yeah.
use my things. And they're like, nana nana boo boo, come at me. And you guys who have waded into this lovely world of notice and counter notice know there's not much you can do about it. And if you go and talk to a lawyer and you're like, hey, they ripped off my stuff, and they're like, well, do you have a registration? And you're like, no. And they're like, well, do you have $20,000 to start a lawsuit? And you're only going to get a few hundred because that's how much damages you are going to be able to prove.
Right.
No, those numbers don't make sense, which means you have no options. It means they get away with it, which I hate and lots of other people hate and get frustrated with. I will put a little bug. There is a new online, it's called the Copyright Claims Board. It's basically a new Zoom court for copyright infringement. I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet because it's its first year. It's just celebrating its like first anniversary. But it's supposed to be a cheaper, easier option for people to get, to hear their copyright claim and to get their fair day in court and to get recovery from people. And so if this stuff happens, and you're like, hey, I can prove really clearly, especially if you have a copyright registration, you had something, someone ripped it off, you've gotten all the screenshots and you've got your little file, reach out to me or someone who practices in copyright law, because we may be able to have some other options to be able to for people to get what you want and people take you seriously and get it, taken care of.
Yeah. That's good to know. That's really, really interesting. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So one more question about TP tiers. A lot of my members are constantly asking me about this, using published works in their resources, referring to novels or magazines or even YouTube videos. What can we do about that?
Yeah, it's so tricky, right? Because referencing other works which are likely protected by copyright, right? Because someone else created them, and that's how it works, is whoever creates the work owns the copyright, unless something is in writing otherwise. So if you're referencing, meaning discussing the work or analyzing it, or maybe doing a small quotation, I would say that's going to be in safer territory. What's difficult about this area is that there are very few, bright lines, and it's a lot of it depends. And that means you feel like you have to go to an attorney every time. And even then, even a seasoned copyright professional like myself, I can't tell you, oh, that's fair use for sure. Oh, you're fine. Or, oh, that's not fair use. The only person who can tell you that is a judge in a black robe in a courtroom. So
Right.
I am guessing and trying to use educated guessing, right? Of what do we have from case law? What looks different in terms of your use of it? Proportionality of the work? Is it the heart of the work? Does it impact the commercial viability of the original work? That's a really big question that we have now, meaning that's why you can't rip off a whole video and put it on YouTube, a movie, right? Because who would watch your channel if they could do the original? And so there's a lot that goes into that. But I would say if you're using smaller portions of a work, and portions of a work and then commentating on it or analyzing it or criticizing it or asking questions, you're likely going to be in safer territory. And no, I can't give you a percentage number because there just is no such thing, right? Of how much you can use of something. The more you slide along that spectrum into using more of the work, especially if it's a visual work. Like I would not recommend that you take another photo or that you put a video inside of your course. You can just link out to that resource, right? But the link in, you could direct traffic. That's always going to be fine and in safe territory, but you shouldn't embed other works of intellectual property into your IP because that is infringement.
Right.
So that's
I
an
always
area where
say,
you, yeah,
like, reach out if you're going to use a published work, reach out to the publisher and
yeah.
ask, you know,
And
like
ask, because, and here's the
specific.
thing, not only because you're like, oh, well, like, how are they ever going to know? Because especially if it goes, popular, you just never know who might be in your audience. And, the reason why those licensors and publishers make money is because of licensing fees. And if they have already asked other people to pay for this, right, and they let you get away for free, imagine what those paying customers feel like, right? Who are like, look, I reached out to Marvel and their licensing team, and that's why I got to put Captain America or talk about him in my World War II unit. You didn't. You did it on your own. And now the licensing department is mad and someone's in trouble, right? And so, and just know Disney is one of those companies, along with, other, especially, that are very vigilant about protecting their IP because it's a huge part of their business model and they have to,
Right.
for all the rights holders that depend on them. So, yeah.
Yes, I always say do not touch Disney, Harry Potter, anything
Don't
trademarked, don't touch it.
anything trademarked and licensing. I know the kids love it. And there's a reason, is because those people have invested billions of dollars
Yeah.
into building up those brands. And so, create your own artwork, create your own characters. You can talk about it, but do not import that stuff wholesale into your curriculum. There's a reason why McGraw-Hill and the big publishers, right? Their licensing department and publishing, it took them forever to get their curriculum out, right? And it all had to go through a committee that would check every single thing to make sure that none of this happened, is because you're talking about big stakes once you start selling curriculum, because you are not a teacher anymore. You are an entrepreneur. You
Right.
are a writer, you are a publisher, and that is a different hat you have to put on, and you don't have fair use once you're out of the classroom, once you're creating the goods yourself. So,
Okay, this just popped into my head. So one more question about TPT, because I'm just constantly hearing these things and I'm like, I need Brittany.
yeah.
So a lot of teachers have written in their contracts that anything that they create is property of the schools,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
really makes me angry.
Yes.
And I don't want to say like, is there a workaround? Because we want to like be legal here, but like, can they do anything other than leave their
Yeah, it depends on what it says in their contract. So, but here's what I would push back, to be able to put my little bit of my employment labor attorney hat on, because I have dealt with these and people who felt really nervous or just wanted to clarify. And so, one thing you can do is you can get your school to sign an IP assignment that basically is a statement of, hey, I'm acknowledging that this person may create certain works on their own time, on their own resources. That is not part of their job duties. It's basically checking off all those boxes and clarifying why work for hire doctrine doesn't apply. And I'm just acknowledging that I don't own any rights to that, which I think is reasonable and fair, because it's likely, unless as part of your job, you are being paid to develop curriculum, and then this belongs to you. And especially if you're being careful, do it on your own computer, on your own time. You make sure it's not, and you may use this in your classroom, right? But if it shouldn't necessarily be part of your job. And that will kind of, be really fact dependent, obviously, of what your contract says and what your role is being hired for and how your district teaches that. But those are some principles that can help. And so and that's a good reminder. I've actually been working on that agreement to get that up in my shop so that people can get it themselves and then use it as a template and then just have their district, sign it. So because I've heard of teachers who were like, oh yeah, I'm making all this money on TPT and no one knows at work because I've kept it down low, or they're using like, a pen name or something. And I'm like, that's awful that like you feel like you have to be like hiding
right. And
because you're
why?
worried, that your principal or your school district's going to get mad or try to like claw back some of that money, which is ridiculous. So
Like
yeah.
teachers need second jobs. So why would you anyway?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't even get me started, right? On how little they're paid, that they have to now moonlight and have a second job so that
Okay.
they can, pay for rent and feed their children, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
they're not making anywhere close to a living wage, right? The gall of districts and of education, administrators and unions who are not obviously doing their job to protect teachers to try to come after you for that is
Yeah.
awful.
That's a whole nother soapbox we could go on.
Whole nother stick. So yeah, here's the thing, that is your work. that you worked hard on, fight for it. And, and I say that understanding that like, you're like, yeah, but Britt, I don't want to get fired. Like, what's my leverage? But, make sure that you're reading your contract carefully, talk with other teachers, and advocate for yourself. And if you can, get your district to sign that if that's an impediment to you moving forward and launching and selling your own digital products. Because unless that's explicit part of your job, I would argue that that's not part of your, it doesn't fall into the work for hire doctrine, which means that IP does not belong to them, it belongs to you.
Right. That's really good. Okay. We got to wrap this up, but I just could keep asking you questions all day. I love it.
And I could keep chatting with you all day. I love my teachers, and I love what your people who come and find me and connect with me online. And I
Yeah.
know your people are rule followers too. And so I
Oh, yes.
understand that, like, because of course this comes from your training and the world that you live in and structure. And I think that's such a gift, and it's such a strength of yours. And also I could see where it can get you hung up on not wanting to move forward because there's a lot of risk and indecision in moving and being a business owner, which totally understandable, but it's okay. Just attack it one thing at a time, right? Yeah.
That's good advice. Just, yeah. Okay. Last question. What is the number, which this might be hard to answer, but the number one mistake that you see creators making when it comes to keeping their business legal?
Probably, yeah, not checking that the stuff they're using doesn't belong to someone else. And I mean that on both probably the trademark and copyright, because I see a lot of people on the trademark side, they launch with a name, and they're like, oh, it started as a hobby. So they never really did a trademark search, or all they saw was available on Etsy or was available on TPT. So they assumed it was available. And
Yeah.
all that means is it's available on that website, not like ever, right? And so
Right.
make sure you do a really thorough Google search as step one, and keep on doing those searches. In fact, set up Google alerts for your name so that if someone else gets a news write-up or whatever, or someone else started, you might have a heads up. Do your own trademark search. If you've got the money, hire and get a comprehensive search done. I do these for people a la carte if they're not ready to do a full trademark, but they want that trademark search, just that peace of mind of like, it's a green light and available. And then on the copyright side, I see a lot of people who, they use other materials. They quote people without, citing them. They go on people's websites and reimagine, stuff, but then they don't change it enough. And yeah, and you get in trouble with copyright infringement, right? And so they use, photos that don't belong to them or videos. Really make sure if there's any photos that you're taking, you own the rights to those. I think most people are pretty good about knowing, we don't put children obviously in any of your product photos unless you have a model release, which usually means it should not be anyone that's actually in your classroom, right? Make sure you're following all your rules, especially about keeping kids safe online. That's really important. But yeah, the big one is, probably online is using other people's, especially media, photos and videos, especially in this realm now where we all want to have reels and we all want to have video and we all want to get, go viral and get attention. Be really careful about commercial music. I know that it's fun and trendy, but if you're using it for an ad or to sell a product, that's considered commercial use, and that's actually against the terms of like TikTok and Instagram. So it doesn't mean that you won't get away with it, but it also doesn't mean that today could be your unlucky day and that you get dinged and get a copyright strike against it. And so, just know going in like, oh, ideally you want to have music that you can have a royalty to use, or just do a talking head. So, yeah.
Did not know that. That's really interesting. So
Yeah.
is that just for paid ads or for just reels
It
that you're
says for
talking
commercial
about?
use. I would say the most dangerous thing to do, like the highest risk, is when it's a paid ad for sure. So if it's a sponsored post, especially because in your contract you are signing, because I negotiate these, it says I own all the rights to my stuff. I won't put in anything in it that could be subject to copyright infringement or intellectual property infringement, because that brand that's paying you, they don't want to stick their neck up on the line. And if there's a problem, now it's your problem and you are paying their legal fees. That's what indemnification means. And so that's now we're getting to really big stuff. So make sure you don't do that. If you're, because I use fun music, right? And when I make my own reels, and I'm a business, and so I even, walk a little bit of the gray area, but I try to think about if I'm actually selling a product and this is a lot more commercial heavy, I tend to be safer and not use music, or use like an audio, but not, a Lady Gaga song or something, right? Because that is commercial music and I don't have a license to use that. That's called a sync license and I don't have one. Yeah.
Very interesting. So good. Okay. Thank you so much. That was super informative. I feel like all of my listeners are just going to get so much from this episode. Go back and listen to it twice. Take some notes because this is like really gold for your business. But switching gears as we wrap this up, Brittany, I always ask my guests this. What is one act of generosity you've done or plan to do? It can be personal, it can be business related.
I love this question. So I serve as pro bono counsel to a faith-based organization called We Believe, and it's an app that's kind of has like a daily devotional practice, and it has like a little scripture video where people share kind of the scripture of the day and their thoughts on it. And it's primarily towards an LDS audience, but we also have interfaith people on there too, because I'm LDS, and so I'm a member of that faith community, and I've helped them with their trademark and stuff, and it's been a really fun project to be involved with pro bono. And they were, they've sent me merch as a hoodie, and they're like, we're sorry we can't pay you, but we can send you a hoodie, and I'm like, no, I knew what this was when I offered to do that. But it's been a very rewarding organization to serve, because I believe that it's okay to have faith still exist in the public square. And I'm really proud of people who've pulled together their hearts and minds in a nonprofit, except that that's what it is, to still share that and make space for that online. And I think, sometimes we need a little bit more of that good news in our world and our feet. So yeah, I'm proud to be associated with them. So
I know they appreciate all of that for sure. Well, this has been great. Tell everyone where they can find you, Brittany, how they can get your contracts or learn more about your course.
right. So I'm Brittany Ratelle in all the places online. Mostly I hang out on Instagram because I'm like Ariel. I want to be where my creatives are, and they're on Instagram. But that's also my main website. And then my contracts are found at creativecontracts.co. But that's linked from Brittany Ratelle. You can find it. And like Lindsay said, she's got an affiliate code, so make sure you put that in to get the best price possible. If there's anything that's piquing your interest and you think you might need to protect you. And then I also have that course Lawfully Ever After, which is launching again in September as kind of a back to school special. And it's really meant to be like it's my kind of DIY solution to help people through setting up their business. And so we set up their LLC, we get their website bundle, that's actually all included, and we get their independent contractor agreement set up. That's like kind of the agreement for your first hire or helper or VA. And then we go into IP stuff, brand protection, copyright protection, and then like troubleshooting and a little bit of taxes. And so it's kind of my business legal setup in a box solution. And it's been really fun. I launched it a couple times last year, but it includes office hours. So it does include some, ask me anything Q&A to me, which, considering what I bill my clients for that access, it's way underpriced, but I feel really strongly about making this available to people who need some help, and who get stuck in this process. And so, yeah, it's been a really fun thing to be involved with. So Lawfully Ever After is the name of that, but you can find the wait list from my Instagram. So yeah.
Perfect. We'll make sure we link all of that below and my code. Make sure you put that code in. I believe it's 30% off the contract. So it's a really good.
I think it might be, I think it's 20. Actually, no, I think you have a higher code. Yeah. You have a special one. So yeah. Yeah. So definitely use Lindsay's, whatever it is, it's the best price you're going to get. And then, and know that it's going to help you step by step to hopefully get to reach that finish line. Please, if you buy, my digital product, just like any digital product, make sure you close that loop and use it, get it out of that downloads folder, open it up. And, it's not doing any good just sitting, in a dusty file on your computer, but we want to make sure that it's protecting you and helping you get legally legit. So
love it. Thank you so much, Brittany. All right, guys, we will be back next week. I'll see you then. Bye.
I appreciate it.
Welcome back.